Greetings, fellow gorehounds, and welcome back to another Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And we just saw We Are Still Here, a under-the-radar, surprisingly gory horror movie from last year that we kind of missed, and we're kind of playing catch-up right now with a lot of movies.
Yeah, because it came out around Halloween, and there were a lot of Halloween-themed things that we were doing at that period of time. We just didn't get to it on the list. Because we had a bunch of other things like Tales from Halloween and shit that we had to deal with.
Which we watched Tales from Halloween and we didn't do a vlog on it, but it's good. So
Tales from Halloween is good. Like, why didn't we do a vlog? Because we did one more vlog than we actually had time to do.
Yeah, pretty much. We were really fucking swamped during the August and October. So there's a lot of stuff that we saw that we didn't get a chance to vlog, and there's a lot of stuff that we wanted to see, like We Are Still Here, that we didn't have a chance to. But thankfully we just watched it today, and wow, that was worth the wait. That was really good.
Yeah. That movie is a lot gorier than the trailer indicates that it's going to be. You think it's going to be another like, oh hey, boo, we live in a haunted house.
Yeah. Because in the beginning, it's kind of got all the makings of the kind of like Insidious, The Conjuring style kind of spooky ghost / demon movies that we've been seeing.
It even has a seance and a psychic and all that jazz.
Absolutely. It has all the pieces to that, but what I didn't expect is that the movie is influenced by Fulci and Lovecraft, which added a new dynamic to it that these movies usually don't have.
Yeah, it was really funny because before we did some research after we saw the movie, because we like to go in a movie like fresh.
Yeah. We like to try to not read as much as possible so that when we see the movie.
If it's not obvious in the trailer, then we probably didn't run into it. But yeah, the minute we get to like the halfway mark, like Josh is like, man, this is reminding me about House by the Cemetery.
Yeah, that was what kept ringing in my head, was House by the Cemetery. And after we watched the movie, I was reading the director being interviewed about the movie, and he talked about his main influences were the works of H.P. Lovecraft and House by the Cemetery specifically, and House. House. It sounded like, based on what he was saying, that he meant the 80s movie House. Though I imagine there's
the one with the greatest American hero, as opposed to the Japanese film.
Absolutely. Which I could see that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. There's a little bit of that in this movie.
It doesn't have the sense of humor that House does.
No,
this movie's really serious.
This movie is pretty damn serious up until like the last minute, but there's a bit of like ghoulish dark humor like underneath some moments.
Yeah.
It's not like overt and in your face like House is, because House was a straight up horror comedy. This is a straight up horror movie, but there's a little bit of moments like when a certain bad guy gets his comeuppance.
When a certain villain gets his comeuppance, that effect is really gory and really bloody.
Yeah, we're not going to spoil that yet.
It's meant to be a little funny.
We're not going to spoil that yet. We'll get into spoilers in a minute. But non-spoiler review, like, this was a surprisingly creepy, surprisingly gory, and a surprisingly fast-paced movie.
Yeah, it's very brisk. It's like an hour 45 minutes,
by the time
it just zips by.
Yeah, when we started,
you're completely like drawn into this world.
Most definitely. And when it started like ramping up into the climax, I'm like, wow, we're already at the climax. Damn, this movie's speeding up fast. It was this movie's a clear case of like, man, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, it does.
Like,
this
holy
gets
crap.
really fast.
Barbara Crampton is in the movie, whom, if you're a horror fan, you know her from, like, 80s movies like From Beyond, and recently she was in You're Next, and she's continuing her trend of playing the world's most attractive grandma / mom.
Yeah.
In movies.
Pretty much. Like, I think it's following the pattern where, like, she comes on set and everyone's like, oh shit, makeup, we need to make her look like 20 years older.
Well, I was watching this movie going like, it feels like they had to add makeup to make her look older because she just she was gifted and so like she is a grandma now in real life, but she looks like she could be in just her 30s. Like it's
30s or early 40s at worst. You know, she's crazy.
And she's really good in this movie. She plays a grieving mother who moves into this new house with her husband, basically to get away from the city and to essentially get away from life while she gets over the death of her son, who died in a car crash. But spooky things start happening around the house, and she starts assuming that, maybe maybe her son followed them to the house that they bought.
Yeah. This is a woman like grasping at the hope that maybe ghosts are real, simply so that her son.
Absolutely, and her dad, her husband is naturally way more skeptical about that. He's grieving too, and he's obviously in mourning, but he is far more skeptical about like, oh well. Obviously, that painting fell over because we were walking by and it fell. Like, a little more practical.
You said it really well, which is like there's a character who's grasping at superstition for a very understandable reason, and a guy who's holding on to skepticism for a very understandable reason.
And their relationship, like, was really believable and really touching. They felt like a real couple. Yeah. And
they compromise a lot on their assertions. Usually in this kind of movie what will happen is that the skepticism versus magic argument will basically come to a head until the relationship threatens to split apart.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen here. It strains them, but the story doesn't take it that far because that's not the story.
Absolutely, and it definitely feels like they come to like normal relationship compromises over things.
Yeah. It's basically he's willing to be convinced if they can prove it enough.
Absolutely. So she eventually, says like, "Hey, I think our son followed us. I know you don't believe me. I know this seems crazy, but my friend and your friend, she's a psychic. Like, I know you don't believe it. You think she's all crazy and all that stuff. But what if we let's bring her over here and see what happens."
Yeah, because like their connection with each other is that the dead son and the son of this other couple were buddies in college.
Yeah, absolutely. It's obvious that they were friends for a while too. So. Yeah. So they invite their psychic friend over, and she brings her husband, who is a awesome stoner hippie, played by Larry Fessenden, who we knew going in that he was in the movie because of the trailers. Yeah. And so when we're sitting there watching the movie and they're like, oh, they're driving down like rural New England and like it's like covered in snow and they come to this like isolated house and we're like, this feels like a Larry Fessenden movie.
Yeah, because Larry Fessenden is a little more famous for being a horror director of a lot of Wendigo movies.
Yeah, he's starred in a lot of movies, but like there's a very particular style that he has that this movie kind of encapsulates, even though it's obviously just going for like a 70s by way of Fulci style, but with a little more comprehension. Like it's not.
Yeah. They didn't like start filming shit and then fill in the blanks later that Fulci and Franco are both really famous for doing.
You can follow everything, but you also can tell, like, man, you can tell why Larry jumped on board on this, because this has him written all over it. All you needed was a Wendigo, and it's not a Wendigo. That's
not a spoiler. It's not a Wendigo.
that becomes apparent right away.
The psychic is played by Lisa Marie, who many of you remember from a lot of Tim Burton movies.
Yes, and it was really cool to see her back in a movie, and she does a really great job. And she managed to play the kind of like hippie psychic character without being completely like rolling your eyes annoying about it that you usually see in movies like this.
Yeah, she doesn't come off like movie hippie. She comes off like a hippie you would actually meet.
Absolutely. And Larry had the potential of being like a really annoying character, but he's actually like the most likable.
Yeah, he's super likable, which is really important for the tone that the film takes.
Most definitely. I don't think we can keep going with what happens later in the movie without getting into spoilers. So, without getting to spoilers, this movie's really good. You should check it out if you like anything we've mentioned so far. If you like Lucio Fulci, if you like 70s horror movies, if you like just movies set in New England in isolated houses with creepy atmospheres, then this movie is definitely for you. So, with that said, spoilers! Okay. So, the hippie...
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Like, this movie gets real fast.
Oh my god. And it fucking escalates super fast. Within, like, I think, like, the first 10 minutes, like, this creepy couple shows up at their doorstep to welcome them into the house. And, like, tells them this story about how the house used to be the home of, like, a funeral parlor. And that this family, the Dagmars, that used to live there, which if you all follow my show, you might know I used to have a character named Dagmar back in the day, which was kind of funny watching this movie.
Yeah, it was.
this family from the past that used to live there were called the Dagmars. But apparently, according to the story, back in the day, they were ran out of town by the town, and committed suicide, and were apparently suspicion of like sacrificing things or something. Yeah,
suspicion of like child murder and shit like that.
Selling corpses. That's what it was.
That was it. Yeah.
They were under suspicion of selling the corpses of the people who come into their funeral parlor to black market, and I believe they even specifically name dropped like Chinese restaurants.
Yeah, Chinese restaurants.
Whoa,
you're like, whoa, that's racist.
That was one of those like, wow, this town is racist as shit. Rural New England sounds right.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
Sounds right.
Pretty much.
It's not that the movie is, the town is.
Yeah.
You know, because that story, spoilers, is not entirely accurate.
Yeah. So probably or thinking, hey, did you say H.P. Lovecraft earlier? We did.
Yes.
You know, there is a bit of like Dunwich horror going on.
There is something ancient and evil and like hard to describe underneath this house.
Yeah, you never, like a good Lovecraft story, you never see it.
Yes.
We'll tell you right now,
but
you don't feel the evil. Yeah. Now, if you're like, oh, you don't get to see shit, well, that blows. No, you don't get to see the evil.
Yeah.
They tell you that it's there, but you never actually see it. But what you do see a lot of are the Dagmars, which was really shocking, because rather than treating them like a ghost, they're treated like monsters.
Yes. So you get all these, like, in the beginning of the movie, for like the first maybe 20 minutes, you have characters walking throughout their house, and they like walk by a doorway, and there would just be like them standing in the background, like in shadow, but not like in like the Blumhouse style where a ghost would be standing there and there'd be like a dun dun dun. Yeah. No, it's just very quiet. It's very matter of fact, and you might miss it if you're not paying attention sometimes. Yeah. But it's all well framed, so you're like, oh, whoa, what's that there? you know, shit like that happening throughout the entire movie, and it's fucking creepy. Like, like I was definitely feeling a little goosebumps in a couple of those. But as the movie goes on, with like in the first 20 minutes, you see some of the Dagmars.
Yeah, and they're all like black and burned up. And
which was one of the first clues that story that they tell you is not entirely accurate, because why would they be all burnt up?
Yeah.
If they just left town and fucking like committed suicide, you know, because who commits suicide by lighting themselves on fire? Like,
yeah, very few people.
Unless you're in Tiananmen Square or something like that, who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
You know, that's a very vicious way to go. If you're gonna commit suicide, probably gunshot, maybe cutting yourself, maybe taking something, I don't know. Like, something a little less
but self-immolation, that's kind of, no.
So that story was not sounding very accurate. And especially since you know that, well, it's a funeral parlor. Yeah. What do funeral parlors have in the basement? Well, crematories.
Yeah.
So you're like, something else happened here. We're not sure what yet, but something else happened. But one of the like things I like about them is that they're not just like ghosts. They're obviously vengeful spirits, but they're not treated like they are in most movies. In this, they're physical forms that can grab you, and because they're all burnt up and they're constantly like ashes like falling from them and they're smoking,
embers inside of them,
they burn your flesh when they touch you, which is a really cool detail that I don't see many like ghost movies doing. And things like that.
They don't walk through walls.
They could bump into things and knock them over, and it's very intentional too. Like,
they can use the house to do things. You know, the house does their bidding,
and like it becomes very apparent that this movie is a fucking hard R when they get their first victims.
Yes.
Because the first victims are the hippie family who arrive, also invited their son and his girlfriend. Or I guess they invited their son, and their son invited his girlfriend. But they go out to get some dinner, and the son and the girlfriend arrive while they're out at dinner. So they're like, okay, well, let's just go in the house, get settled, and, you know, maybe have a little up close and personal time while everyone's away. And the fucking ghosts fucking, like, destroy that guy's face.
Yeah, they just basically crush his head.
Yeah, and his face like caves in and blood's everywhere, and you're like, holy shit, that was fucking vicious.
Yeah, way more vicious than a normal ghost movie.
Oh, Jesus. This Paranormal Activity or Insidious usually aren't gory. They're spooky and they're creepy, but they're usually not gory. This was fucking gory.
Yeah.
And like the girl like sees her boyfriend getting like his face fucking smashed in, and the ghost is like this creepy fucking blackened thing with these fucking yellow eyes staring at him her in the darkness, and she runs, gets in the car, and tries to take off. And this is the point where I realize the movie is going to surprise me every fucking step of the way, because she gets in the car and starts driving off, and I'm like, okay, well that's going to be how they explain that the car's not there anymore. The girl fucking ran away.
Right. But no.
But then the ghost appears in the back seat and just fucking smashes through her fucking chest.
Yeah. And she's a good couple of miles away from the house at that point.
And then turns the wheel and turns it, like, into this bank behind these, like, bushes. And I'm like, wait, they can leave the house?
Yeah.
I didn't think they were going to be able to leave the house.
The ghosts are not bound to the house.
Oh, shit, that's a whole new set of rules. Jesus Christ. Because I wasn't even thinking about it. Like, it was just like an automatic assumption I made when she got in the car. It's like, okay, she's going to run away. This is going to be how they explain why they don't know why the car's not there. Like,
right. It'll happen before she can get a hold of anybody.
So when the family gets home, they're not like, oh, our son's here, but he's not here. Where is he? If the car's not there, then they don't ask the question. So.
Yeah. But this is... Whoa, no, this is really just... Damn.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh shit, I did not expect the ghost to pop up there.
Plus, like, that's the usual rule with ghosts. It's they can't really leave the house, or they have to move with the family or something.
And when they move with the family, they rarely show up in cars and shit. They usually show up in the new house.
Yeah. They usually don't show up in transit. You know?
So to see her, like, in the car, like, I was like, oh, fuck, that was... Or I expected her just, like, get hit, like freaking out, like, on the way.
Yeah, hit by a car, whatever.
Because I've seen movies do that shit before, and no, like, Jesus Christ. Which then that leaves a question throughout the entire movie, like, is there any way to get away from this at this point? I don't even fucking know. Is the boundary of the town line? I don't fucking know. Really fucking gory, really fucking creepy.
God, the fucking, like, old guy. The guy who would be the mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus
the old man
Christ.
who the old man of the couple who shows up and like, welcomes them to the neighborhood and tells them the whole story about the house.
He's usually, like, that role would pretty much be it. He would show up to be the harbinger of doom and then show up again at the end. This movie doesn't do that. His
wife is the harbinger of doom.
Yeah, you're right.
Because his wife gives the husband this note that says the house needs a family, run or get out, like something like that. And the husband, being the skeptic's like, what? Like, that's fucking weird. And doesn't tell his wife simply because his wife has been so hysterical lately.
He just doesn't want to, like, upset her any further. But it turns out this old man is the antagonist. He's the villain.
He is essentially like the ringleader of the town. And it turns out that there is some sort of sacrifice that must be made every 30 years at this house. Otherwise, a great darkness will be unleashed upon the world.
Yeah, something bad happens to the town.
Yes.
And the people the people that stand on the threshold of that are the ghosts of the Dagmars.
Yes.
And so the Dagmars are so protective of the house that if anyone moves in, they murder them, and that's the sacrifice. So the town doesn't have to dirty its hands.
Because the Dagmars were the first sacrifice. They were sacrificed to the gods, but they didn't want to leave their house, so they kept in their house, which made it easy for the town, because the town's like, well, the Dagmars hate us, but if we let other people move into the town, then the Dagmars will kill them because they want to keep the house safe.
Yeah.
And the people that die in the house will then be sacrificed to...
Yeah, they're outsiders.
So it's like...
Because you move to that house, you, like, die in a couple of days.
Oh my fucking God. This movie does not fuck around. It happens quick.
Yeah.
And so you have this nice complicated system that starts getting disrupted because the Dagmars, for some reason, aren't killing the couple in the house.
Yeah. They decide to let them live.
So the old man, he's basically kind of like the old man in, like, Rosemary's Baby, like the Hail Satan.
Yeah, Cavastus.
Yeah, that's basically the kind of position he runs in this town. Is just like, we got to do something. We got to kill these people and sacrifice them to the house if the Dagmars aren't going to do it, because...
I will say this, though. Just for those who have seen Rosemary's Baby, which should be all of you, This guy is not as sympathetic as Mr. Cavastus.
No, not at all.
Mr. Cavastus is actually very sympathetic, which I love about that character.
Well, I meant he's more like that guy, but
he's the guy who rules everything and tells everyone what to do. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Plus, he's kind of like the way that guy is at the end of the movie, the entire movie in this one.
Yeah.
Because right away you're like, something's off.
Yeah, something's fucked up.
This guy's smile you don't trust. That is a smile concealing something bad. And his wife just looks terrified the whole time, and you're like, oh shit, there's something going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so you're like, okay, surely the town is just going to do something subtle. No. Holy fucking crap. Once they realize that the house isn't, that the Dagmar ghosts are not killing these people, they start fucking murdering folks.
Just gunshots to the head, just point blank. They open the door, bam. They start like hounding the entire house, like it's a fucking home invasion movie.
Yeah. The
smashing through the
town
windows.
Invades this house, and that's when the true ghoulishness begins. Because as soon as these townspeople enter the house goes about the business of murdering everybody.
But here's the thing. I got the impression that it wasn't necessarily the house so much as the Dagmars.
Yeah, the Dagmars.
Dagmars wreaking revenge on the town for what they did to them. Even though it's technically the ancestors of the people who did it to them.
Yeah.
They're still taking it on the town because the town have perpetuated this system for years.
They're fucking like crushing motherfuckers' heads open. They're fucking pulling people into like in between the floorboards.
Absolutely. And in the process of all this, the hippie couple gets killed while this is all going on. Like, there's a seance at one point in this movie.
Yeah, which is done by Larry Fessenden, and it's one of those like, is your wife gonna be okay with you doing this? Is like, absolutely fucking not. That's why we're doing it while they're gone.
Yeah, which turns out to be a bad
idea.
It's
a really bad idea. He gets possessed by the Dagmar patriarch, the father.
Yeah, and that's when they learn
that's how they learn about what's happened.
The real story, how the Dagmars weren't doing that stuff. They were actually a good family who provided an actual service for the town of the funeral thing, but ended up getting sacrificed to this creature and are pissed. You know, they can't leave, they can't do whatever because like apparently they're so filled with hate that even the darkness underneath didn't want them.
Yeah, even hell would not have them.
So they're stuck in this town, but they kind of stick to their house because that's the house they love.
And the thing is that they're not. You're like, whatever the Dagmars were, they are not good people now. They would just fucking murder people.
No, just vicious murder. It doesn't matter what you are. You could be an electrician. You could be just fucking...
They just, for some reason, have taken a shine to this couple.
Absolutely. But because of the whole siege going on, because of the kills that the Dagmar couple have done on the hippie couple's kids, and because of the hippie couple dying in the process of all this, the demon is... The monster underneath is satiated.
Yeah, the sacrifice gets like, all right, that was a good one.
But because the entire town, like, goes straight up like Frankenstein on the house, the Dagmars kill the fucking town one by one in these vicious, brutal manners. There's like one guy who just fucking melts alive.
Yeah.
You know, and like gallons of blood bursting everywhere, and just like the guts and shit, and fucking heads are smashed in. It's fucking... Oh my god, it's like for a minute the movie becomes Dead Alive.
Yeah. They fucking like flat out like rip open a guy's chest.
Yeah. Like not as Dead Alive is going a little too far, but like
well that's a high bar.
Yeah. But like for a minute it becomes like an 80s gory horror movie and becomes a splatter film, and it is fucking awesome. Especially since you want this town to fucking die.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, the demon's gonna come out and swallow the town? Good. Fucking swallow the fucking
these
town.
People. Good, fuck these people. They'll just kill people just because they shouldn't be
absolutely.
There. God.
But it comes down to the end, and you have the old man who's kind of been running everything in the town, who's yelling at the patriarch of the Dagmar family, saying, "Why haven't you killed these people yet? Why haven't you done it? You know what will happen if you don't." You know, and then the couple, like, comes running in because they were upstairs and they got into a thing, and so they're like, oh, we gotta get the fuck out of here. End up downstairs, and so now you have these three these three forces, the couple that moved in, the Barbara Crampton and her husband, you have the old man, and no one else, because the rest of the town is fucking dead. And you have the Dagmar family on the other end, and he's explaining to the old man's explaining to the Barbara Crampton, it's just like, your son is here. Don't you want to be with him?
Yeah.
Don't you want to be with your son again? I can let that happen. You just gotta die. Like, just going on this, like, whole thing. As he's doing this, like, the Dagmar father's, like, slowly creeping up behind him until he grabs his head and just God! Jesus Christ!
That effect was amazing.
Yes!
Because it's not like I'm burning, I'm dead now. No, he fucking crushes that guy's skull.
Yeah, and fucking, like...
There's a gout, it's like... it's like a fucking fountain.
And then Barbara and her husband are, like, looking at the Dagmar family, and the Dagmar family holds hands and just kind of, like, smiles at them, and then kind of disappears. And you kind of realize why they let them live. It's because they are a family, and they love each other truly, unconditionally, despite everything. And they understood the pain that these two were going through because of the death of their son. So the fucking ghost had empathy for them.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the empathy is not eternal for everyone, because they didn't have it for the hippie couple, who you feel the most bad for now.
Yeah.
You know, because they're just kind of caught in the crossfire of all this. But as this was going on, she's been hearing, like, the voice of her son randomly throughout the movie. And she hears it again, telling her, don't be afraid. And, like, the door to the basement goes on. And the movie ends with them going down to the basement and the husband smiling and saying, hey, Bobby, it's good to have you back.
Yeah.
Credits. And I was just like, this movie's awesome.
Yeah.
This movie's fucking great. They get to live in the house. Now, I don't know what's going to happen 30 years from now when the cycle comes back around again. I guess if they ever make a We Are Still Here too, we'll find out about that.
Yeah.
But the Dagmars, like, let them live and let them reunite with their son. And it's kind of a touching ending despite all the bloodshed.
Well, yeah, it's got that good, that kind of, like, beautiful, horrific, like, kind of Fulci, Rosemary's Baby kind of ending, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I kind of like about this movie is that, like, all the details of everything going on, it's all there in the movie, but it's not, like, spelt out the way most American movies are, to where there's no fucking room for any interpretation whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little room for interpretation here, but, like, all the information you need to piece together what's going on is there, and
yeah, confirmed by the director.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
absolutely.
Like, pretty much what we were like, oh, it looks like this is what's happening.
Yeah, basically what we assumed, what we assumed was going on based on all the clues and information they gave us is essentially what the director confirmed in the interviews we read. So we're like, okay, so that explained that the movie is very good.
Yeah.
All that came across
itself.
All that came across without doing the whole, like, American horror movie. This is a ghost, and science explains that ghosts do this, and that's gonna happen, and we gotta do that. And it's just like, God damn it, shut up and just get back to the scary shit. Like,
yeah.
You know, where they have that, like, scene where they're sitting around a table, like, explaining what's going on to an audience that has seen what's going on already. Like,
yeah. Like, it's God damn it. Yeah, so many times. How many times have we seen that scene?
Yeah, it doesn't have anything like that.
You know,
and
it's really, I really think that kind of started, that kind of over-explaining really, I feel like that really started with, like, The Entity. Because,
oh, man.
You know, The Entity, like, does that, like, oh no, we're gonna explain ghosts scientifically, but the thing about The Entity is that the movie itself doesn't care about the explanation. Yeah. It's just sort of like, yeah, we're just gonna do creepy effects, and because they're paranormal people who think that they can explain this, we're just gonna use that to tell a story about a rape ghost.
There you go. A lot of horror movies will explain things, like even The Exorcist has the Catholic explanation for what's going on and stuff like that. It's not really scientific, but it is.
Yeah, but the Exorcist leaves it very wide.
Yes,
like they could be wrong.
And it never feels like the movie comes to a complete halt when they're explaining what's going on. Like so many movies you'll watch these days, it feels like the movie comes like it's moving, and then all of a sudden stop, and you get like a 10-minute scene of dialogue just explaining shit that you might have already gotten, or you could have explained a better way, or you could have just shown.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I feel. This movie doesn't do that, though.
No, it explains just enough.
And as a fucking result, like, when this movie ended, I was just like, whoa, it's already done.
Yeah.
It didn't overstay its welcome. It fucking, like, you want more, which is a good thing when you get to an end of a movie. If you're like, oh man, I could have done another fucking 30 minutes of that.
Yeah, could have.
You know, but like you still feel satisfied with everything that you got.
Well, yeah, it's a wonderfully complete story, and
all the pieces come together.
Yeah, they didn't also the thing that's really good is they didn't rely on any one thing too much.
Absolutely.
You know, usually when you do a ghost story, you rely on the creepy atmosphere. Mm-hmm. They didn't lean on that too much here. They were like, oh, well, we're going to use that, but we're not going to use that as a reason to not have a bloody climax.
You get like a nice creepy atmosphere, creepy ghosty atmosphere in like the first 20 minutes, and then it kind of goes to something a little more visceral. A little more there, a little more tangible. And then you get like a nice little like seance scene, which is like something out of an Exorcist movie done really fucking well. And then you just get to straight up like a Lucio Fulci gore fest in the last like 10 minutes of the movie. Yeah. Maybe even more. It's hard to tell how long it goes.
Yeah. But basically when the shit hits the fan, it just keeps going to the end.
Oh god, yeah. It just keeps escalating, and oh man, like I can't recommend this movie more.
Yeah, definitely one of the better.
It's probably not going to be on my top 10 end of the year movie list, but if I had made a list of just horror movies, it would be high up there.
Yeah, I agree.
Most definitely.
I was really impressed. I was really impressed that they didn't just rely on shit. That they told their story.
Also, they kept circumventing expectations.
They did.
You know, every time you're like, oh...
Very simply, too. In very simple ways,
yeah,
too.
Every time, like, you're like, oh, man, in the insidious mold of horror movies that we've had for, like, the last 5 years, you kind of know the beats.
Yeah.
You know, so you're like, okay, now this is when this is going to happen. And instead it would take, like, a left turn. And it would be a logical left turn that actually fits, and it doesn't feel like it's forced.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's forced. It doesn't feel like they're using it as an excuse to not do things.
Absolutely. Or if it does stuff like that, it'd be like, well, what if we did the spooky ghost in the background thing, but without, like, any, like, stinger?
Yeah.
You know? And if
what, that works way better.
Absolutely. You know? What if instead of sticking to the normal ghost rules, we have them pop up in the car? You know?
Yeah. Because they never tell you what the rules are, just that they're there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which I was fine with. Because you can piece together what the rules kind of are as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
But damn, that's a really fucking good movie. We are still here. I cannot recommend it higher. If I were to get into negatives, I guess some of the smoke effects are a little CG.
Yeah,
but like it's such a nitpicky thing because it wasn't bothering me. But
well, it did because, like, for lack of a better way of putting it, like the monster isn't the true horror.
Yeah,
you know, the monster is just like a nasty thing.
The makeup on them is fucking great. Yeah, I was referring specifically to the fact because they are like these charred ghost entity things with like red like cinder throughout their face. They also smoke a lot. And some of the smoke was obviously added in post-production.
Yeah, you can tell that was like...
Not all of it, but some of it was.
Yeah, because you can't actually light a motherfucker on fire.
Exactly. And it's just a minor nitpick. Like, it didn't really bother me at all.
No, it worked fine.
Most definitely. God, I'm trying to think of anything to really complain about.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there really is. I mean, you can definitely feel the constraints of the budget if you really think about it, but it doesn't really matter. It tells its story extremely well,
and it's not slow. Like that's something I usually mention with like a lot of slow burn horror movies, but this isn't slow burn.
No,
it's actually really fast
fucking
paced.
Just bam, this is the story.
This is kind of paced more like an 80s horror movie where it's like...
It is. It is.
Which is funny because it's taken so much from 70s horror movies, but like the pacing feels very 80s.
Well, actually, the funny thing is, I think about it, that's probably where the House influence comes from.
Oh, yes, because House just goes bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. As soon as he like moves in, like the movie just starts to the point where you're like, wait, like fucking Vietnam Ghost is shooting up everybody? What is going on?
Oh man, that's a really fun movie. That's a really fun movie.
Yeah.
I fucking love House 2.
House 2,
the second story. Which is only like not really related to the first movie, but
well, it's basically a remake of that first movie with 2 college kids and fucking Ratzenberger as opposed to George Wendt.
Oh, man, that fucking like that fucking dude who shows up and just like, it looks like you got a hold to an extraterrestrial dimension.
Yeah, it looks like what you got here is your basic portal to an alternate dimension.
Yeah. You're just like, this is the greatest movie ever.
Yeah.
House to the second story. Ask for it by name.
House 2 Repossession, not so much.
The House 3 and stuff like that.
Not so much.
Most of the House movies past 2 weren't even intended as House movies.
No, they just repackage them. Like, there's that one that's actually about, like, fucking Lance Henriksen fucking tracking down a serial killer. Turns out it's a ghost.
Oh, man.
And you're like...
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Well, yeah. It's like the last one that they did. It was also not a House movie. They were just like, oh, House 4, whatever.
Yeah. It's a name. Let's slap a name on it.
The climax happens in a haunted house, right? It counts.
Why
like,
not?
Whoa.
Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
All right, we should probably wrap this up soon. So, We Are Still Here. If you are a fan of spooky, creepy ghost movies, it's got that. If you're a fan of 80s splatter films, it's got that.
It certainly does.
If you are a fan of 70s style of cinematography and stuff like that, it's got that.
If you like Barbara Crampton.
If you like Barbara Crampton, Larry Fessenden, Lisa Marie. If you like any of them, it's got that. If you like rural New England set horror movies with Lovecraftian influences, it's got that. Yeah, there's not much more to say other than fucking watch the movie if any of those things excite you.
Thumbs up.
Pull up a chair, deep in the crib, from a blood red chalice you must take a sip. Sit right back for a flick, see gore and entrails and slimy ink. Welcome, you gore